Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Thompson. Some people call me Baby Bird, whatever you prefer. But the most important thing is that I am a famous YouTuber, and I also happen to be running for Congress. So go check out that video if you have not already, and please donate to my campaign. Once we get $50 of donations, I will be making campaign buttons. Just recording this intro separate to the video because it didn't turn out correct originally. But what we're doing today, or what you will be watching, is another great review of videos from Zack Horn. I've been put on this earth for many reasons, and one of those reasons is to work on the humility of Zack Horn. With the purpose and goal being to make sure that his ego does not inflate to the size of a blimp. Now, many of you correctly would say, Matt, you've already failed at your task at this point. Why are you doing this then? And you'd be right. There really is no helping it at this point, but it's more about the principle than anything. And so, based off of that, we're going to critique and have some fun today, folks. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
Of myself all over.
Whoop, I gotta fix my audio real quick, boys and girls. Alright, we're good.
This art, which means I leave impressions of myself all over the ski slopes and trees and stuff. So I came up on this big jump, and I thought I could take it because I saw the snowboarders doing it. Well, snowboards and
Alright, first and foremost, this is how you know this is authentic Zachary Horn content, is that it first starts off with a story about himself. It wouldn't be something from Zack Horn without him talking about himself at the beginning, which is his favorite thing to talk about, actually, so...
skis are very different. Namely, you have two skis to one board, and so when I came up over the top of the jump, I noticed that there was basically a big rut driven into the snow where all the snowboards had landed, and there was no way I could fit both skis in there. And as I came flying up over the top of that...
I really don't think his math is checking out, because if you take the width of two skis and then a snowboard, I mean, they're about the same, so I think this was just more so a thing of willpower than maybe anything else, but we'll continue.
Jump, I realized something, that sometimes when you go really high, you can fall really far. Thankfully, I barely avoided.
Let's just take a minute to unpack that. So what he's saying is that when you go really high, you can also fall really far, and that's something he realized. I guess he is homeschooled, so that might make sense that he just finally realized that, but I think I might send my kid to public school based off of that if these are the epiphanies we get at someone of his age. So, to each their own, but that's just maybe a conviction I have now.
Avoided breaking an ankle, but it has taught me one important principle about economics. Oftentimes, what goes up ends up coming down. So today we're going to be discussing the stock market.
What a great
After
intro.
recent U.S. of profits, are U.S. stock markets setting up for another collapse? That's what we're going to be talking about today, and my answer is absolutely, positively, yes. And there are several reasons for this. Now, before I go further, let me just say I don't think that this will be on the scale that we have seen it before.
August 2012, our boys saying that the market is going to crash. Dow Jones Max. You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Dow Jones, which is one of many stock valuations you can look at. So you're following this, you got like your .com crash, and then you got the '08 crash, and then we're going. 2012, it might have been a little dip there, but overall, it appears that the Dow Jones ain't agreeing. So let's look at the NASDAQ. Spelled that wrong. NASDAQ. This ain't it. I don't know. Let's do S&P 500. Max. What do you know? It just continues to go up there too. So we'll still allow him to have his moment, but yeah, just know that we got some misinformation already off the get-go, folks.
Or I don't think we have basically we're not as high as we were before, so we can't quite fall so low. But I do believe there will still be a period of trepidation.
We're not as high as we were before. 1440. Yeah, he might have some salt there. Okay, so he's not a complete dum-dum.
Within the stock market that will cause some divots in our growth as we progress. There are 4 reasons I believe this. I want to lay those out for you briefly, and then I'll show you.
4 reasons.
Firstly, that the stabilization of the market is too recent. Secondly, that the European crisis has caused instability in our markets.
We're talking about the USA, not Europe, Zach. That's key to remember.
That of China, both because that
China. Let it be known that Zachary Horn did it before Donald Trump did it. China.
their economy is weakening, and also that they've been kind of tinkering around in our stock market in kind of an unethical way. And finally, fourth, this is an election year, and stock markets always react very negatively to election year. So the first point, the stabilization of the market is too recent, and there's a couple of reasons why I think that this will negatively affect our future growth. Reuters reported in September of this past year that there was a 3% fall in the market in 4 days. An absolutely dramatic shift away from the basically the growth that we had seen in late August of last year, just a dramatic fall. And so basically our market is still recovering from the aftershocks of last fall all the way into December. We had another drop December 30th. And so our market is still kind of recovering from those aftershocks. We still haven't made up for the percentages that we lost even as of last fall. So we haven't even climbed up to where we were since the last fall. It's really been less than really a good 6 months since the last time we had a drop. Secondly, it's only been the last couple of weeks that we've even seen the trend going up. Yeah, it really only since April, which Fox News reported.
First and foremost, Zach, your opinion is that since it was going down, it will only continue to go down. You're just saying it go down, and so it keep go down. It can't go up. That's just you saying, that it literally like contradicts your opinion of what goes up must come down. Maybe what goes down must also go up. So just think about that one, Chief.
There was stocks went up 1.1%, so we really only gained back a very small fraction of what we had actually lost. So we still lost 2% since last summer. So really, there's been very little stabilization in the market recently. And secondly, is sometimes the case that stabilization can actually, at least short-term stabilization, can actually be a bad thing. And before you react negatively to that,
well, I am going to react negatively to that, Zach. It's no mystery that relativism is a plague on society, but it's clear to see that Zach was already in this in 2012. But good is bad, bad is good, and anything that helps me argue my point is going to be great here. So that's good to see. So
let me explain why. There's a principle in economics that says that oftentimes it's better to have a much slower progression of economic success moving forward, moving up by rates of about 1% over a long period of time, than to have dramatic increases in a week followed by dramatic decreases in a week. And the reason is because of the psychological drama that takes place, essentially.
Yeah, I enjoy the drama.
When you have dramatic ups, oftentimes the consumer is likely to not save money like he or she would because consumer confidence skyrockets, people go out and spend money, and that's actually how the stock market goes up.
You clearly have not heard the saying, it takes money to make money, Zach.
Once people start spending money. However, it's that very thing that ends up scaring people because if you're not saving money, the consumer confidence tends to end up being shakier in the long run, and therefore people react more negatively to a decrease in the market and they start to panic. Whereas in generations where people saved more money, they reacted a little bit more stably to decreases in the market. They didn't panic because they had that money tucked away. People that don't save that money, frankly, they don't have that same security, and so they tend to panic. Now, another reason why I believe that this is going to be a short-term growth in the market is that the European debt crisis is far from over. Los Angeles Times wrote this past year that there are renewed fears in Europe threaten to derail all the 2012 rallies. I think that pretty much sums my entire speech up right there. That concern.
Well, there you heard him, folks. That sums up the entire speech. So we could turn this one off just based off of his arguments to this point. Obviously, none of us are convinced, but we'll continue to watch just to give the guy a chance. Sometimes you gotta allow someone to just kind of fail knowing it's going to be good for them in the long term. And that's what we're going to do here. So let's continue.
Over Europe are basically threatening to destroy all the progress we've made. And I actually, right before we came to this tournament, I read an article online that said that Germany had promised to stick to the euro, and that's just about the worst thing they could have possibly said, because Germany is basically the last sound economy in Europe right now, and so it's kind of like not saving a drowning man by grabbing onto him with your arm, and you're going to get pulled in, especially when the drowning man weighs 5 or 6 times more than you do. And that's exactly what Germany is threatening us to do.
Don't underestimate me, Zack. I am a very strong swimmer.
Threatening to happen to the German economy. So really, Europe is going to be another big jump that we have to hurdle. Now, thirdly, I think China is another reason why we're going.
China, man, he does it perfectly. Like, honestly, that's incredible.
Have problems moving forward, and this is because they are tinkering in our markets by creating fictitious companies, getting American investors to invest in those companies, and then basically pulling down the shade that's hiding the fallacy behind those companies. Basically, there is no company, but they set up this fictitious, what looks like a legit company. American investors go in and invest, and then the scammers back in China reap all the benefits, and then in a couple of weeks the company disappears. It never really actually existed. It was about a 3 or 4 week fraud in the Americas.
Like, okay, honestly, all jokes aside, like, the first 2 opinions were actually somewhat decent, like, if I'm not being a complete cynic. This one, though, just seems completely out of, like, left field. I had never heard of this, like, concept or thing happening in my entire life. At least on a, like, large enough scale that it would have a significant effect. So, yeah, but we're just going to hear him out. Remember, folks, we're allowing him to fail forward, kind of,
Stock market. So that's another thing that's been going on very recently, and the American Congress hasn't been able to properly regulate that as of yet because it's kind of a recent development in our stock market. Those regulations will probably come, but not for a good period of time, especially leading to my 4th point, in an election year. Now, Congress, of course, is going to be back.
What a transition. Did you guys see that? He was talking about the point 3, and then point 4 is related to Congress. So he talked about the government in point 3, and then he was like, whoosh, right into point 4.
Backlogged because, and frankly, gridlocked during an election year, because this is when partisanship reaches its ultimate highs during an election year. And secondly, American voters just get very nervous when they start seeing candidates basically at their worst talking to each other. So essentially the best time for American voters is when the politicians aren't talking, and that happens a lot during an election year as the politicians start talking, and that makes people really.
I think this would be a great time to plug my own political campaign run. So if you haven't yet, please go over to my other video and watch that, and then donate to my Venmo. We're going to be passing out campaign buttons, but yeah, he absolutely is right here. Congress can't get anything done. There's gridlocks, and that's why you need to vote for me and my viewpoints. So yeah, that's just a selfish plug, but we'll continue.
Really nervous, and we saw during the 2008 elections, there was actually the night of the election, I think there was a 5% fall in the market the night of the election in 2008. So election years.
What happened the day after, Zack? Plus, that was on top of the it was already crashing, so you're just taking the one data point where it was already going to be bad. So you're saying the market was crashing regardless, and it was on an election night, and now you're just trying to take that to prove your point. So that's not a sound, logical way of doing things, Zack.
Are absolutely terrible for economies. So while I do believe that it's definitely good that we're moving in the right direction, I'm not going to say that a 1% increase is a bad thing. I do think we have to take it with a grain of salt. I don't think we're out of the woods entirely yet. I'm just afraid that people who, like me, and when they ski go flying up, I'm afraid that the economy might just take a flop like me. Thank you very much.
Don't clap. Like we said, we gotta decrease the blimp ego. These people are the problem. I'll just say that. All right. Overall, just some high quality Zack Warren content that we all know and love. The one thing I would say though is, whoever you are, this man's father. I'm assuming your son is like 17 or 18 here. Why on earth did you allow him to go out dressed in this suit? That looks like he got it off of a rack at Goodwill. You should have known better, Mr. Zack's dad. But that's the only thing I'll say to you. Otherwise, I'm sure you're a great guy. But anyways, moving on. Next, we have what I have been told is the Magnum Opus of Zack Horn content. So really, the best for last is what we have. So without further ado, let's get into it. Humorous interpretation.
Alright, the judges are ready?
I'm ready, Zach.
Lucretia Smith's Soldier by Mark Twain. On a balmy
Tells me right here it's by Zack Horn. So that's a contradiction, but
May morning in 1861, the village of Blue-Mass, Massachusetts lay wrapped in the splendor of the newly risen sun. Reginald de Whittaker, confidential and only clerk in the house of Bushrod and Ferguson, rose from his bunk beneath the counter and shook himself. After yawning and stretching comfortably
Zack's sermons are never this entertaining.
for a moment, he sprinkled the floor and began to sweep it. He'd only half finished his task, however, when he sat down upon a keg of nails and fell to a reverie. This is my last night inside this shanty.
That just, is he doing his Smeagol voice or something? Like, this is my last night looking for you, precious.
How surprised Lucretia will be when she hears that I am going to be a soldier. How proud she will be, the little darling. Imagine the telepathy.
I imagine this is how he proposed to his wife.
He's up in all types of warlike situations, the hero of 1,000 extraordinary adventures. Finally, returning home, a bronzed and scarred brigadier general.
Wow, look at him flex right there, folks. Yeah, what an intimidating, what a specimen. What a specimen of a human.
General, to cast his honors and his maturity and perfect love at the feet of his own Lucretia, born Leah Smith. So, at 8 o'clock that evening, with a heart palpitating with the joyous news he brought for his beloved, Reginald sat in Mr. Smith's parlor, awaiting Lucretia's appearance. The moment she entered, he sprang to his feet, his face lighted with the torch of love that was blazing somewhere in his head and was shining through, and he ejaculated, "Mine own!" and opened his arms to receive her. "Sir!" she said, with the bearing of an offended queen. Poor Reginald was stricken dumb with astonishment.
I'm astonished too, Zach. I really can't wait to see where this goes. You have me hooked right now, man.
This chilling demeanor, this angry rebuff, where he expected the old tender welcome. He stood, dumbfounded for a moment, with a sense of goneness on him, like one who finds himself cast overboard upon a midnight sea, and beholds the ship passing away into shrouding gloom, while the dreadful conviction falls upon his soul that he has not been missed. He tried to speak, but his pallid lips refused their office. Finally he murmured, "Oh, Lucretia, what have I done? What's the matter? Why this cruel coldness? Don't you..."
Out of the 4 years I've known Zach, this is probably the most emotion I've ever seen him show.
"Love? You Reginald anymore?"
No.
Her lips twisted in bitter scorn, and she replied in mocking tones, "Don't I love my Reginald anymore?" No!
What did I tell you, folks?
I don't love my Reginald anymore. So why don't you go back to your pitiful little junk shop, and why don't you take up your pitiful little yardstick, and why don't you stuff cotton in your ears so you don't hear your country calling for you to step in and shoulder arms? Go! And with that, unheeding the new light that flashed from his eyes, she fled the room and slammed the door behind her. Only
Slam. he missed a great opportunity to like put a slam noise in there, so I just did that for you folks. So really just kind of improving on the content.
A single moment more. Only a single moment more, he thought to himself, and he could have told her that he'd already answered the summons and signed his name to the muster roll, and all would have been well. His lost bride would have returned to his arms with words of praise and thanksgiving upon her lips. He marched from that place with martial firmness and never looked behind him. When Lucretia awoke the next morning, the faint music of fife and the roll of a distant drum wafted into her on the soft spring breeze. And as she listened, the sounds grew more...
Okay, so let's honestly take a moment and think about that this guy has this whole thing memorized. Like, that's actually kind of impressive. Nicely done. Or I guess, I don't know if this is like something he had to fully memorize, or if this is just kind of like a general plot that he's describing, but overall, 8 minutes of this is actually somewhat impressive. Not too impressive, Zack, but somewhat impressive.
subdued and finally passed out of hearing. She lay absorbed in thought for many moments, but finally she murmured, "If only you were among that band of fellows, how I could love them." During the course of the afternoon, a neighbor dropped in, and when the conversation turned upon the soldiers, the visitor remarked, "Reginald Whitaker looked rather downhearted and didn't shout when he marched along with the other fellows this morning. You know, I suspect that's going owing to you, Miss Lou. But when I met him coming here yesterday to tell you he'd enlisted, he thought sure you'd like it to be."
Now, it's important to realize here that Zack is actually not acting. That's a very common position for him of hunchback and looking defeated, especially whenever he plays Ultimate Frisbee against me and is matched up against me. So I think it's just important to point that part out, but we'll continue.
Proud of.
Now we're back to acting, so.
Mercy! What the is the matter with you, girl? Nothing. Only a sudden misery had fallen like a blight upon her heart, and a deathly pallor had telegraphed itself to her countenance.
Wow, how lucky is Zack that he got to do the one thing I've always wanted to do right there.
Bitterly she upbraided herself for her haste of the night before and her harsh treatment of her lover at the very moment that he had come to anticipate the proudest wish of her heart and to tell her that he'd enlisted as her soldier. Alas! Other maidens would have soldiers among those vast armies and would be entitled to feeling a tender solicitude for them, but she would be unrepresented. No soldier in those vast armies would breathe her name when he crested the crimson tide of war. The words were in her bosom, but she kept them there and locked her lips upon their utterance. For weeks she nursed her grief in silence, while the roses faded from her cheeks, and through it all she clung to one hope, that the old love would bloom again in Reginald's heart, and that he would write to her. But the long summer days passed wearily along, and still no letter came. Letters to the other girls sometimes contained brief mentions of him, but painted always the same picture. A morose, desperate, unsmiling man, always in the thickest of the fight, the grind with powder, passing through shot and shell, but always unharmed, as if he bore a charmed life. And finally, the long list of the maimed and killed, Lucretia read these terrible words without fainting on the floor. R.D. Whitaker, private soldier, desperately wounded.
I'll be honest, at this point, I don't know about you folks, but I've completely lost track of the story. So, that's not atypical. Same thing happens whenever I listen to one of Zack's sermons, so,
One of the hospitals in Washington lay a poor wounded soldier. His face was so profusely bandaged that his features were not visible, but there was no mistaking the happy face of the young girl who sat beside him. It was our Lucretia B. Smith. At the opening of this chapter, Lucretia was in a tumult of happy excitement. for the doctor had just told her that her Whitaker was healthy enough to permit the removal of his bandages, and very soon those love features would be revealed again to her view. One bandage was removed, then another, and lo, the poor wounded face was revealed again to the light of day. Oh, my daughter. Alas, it was the face of a stranger.
It was the face of a stranger.
Confound my cats. If I haven't gone away and wasted a whole mortal summer blottering and slubbering over the wrong soldier. It was a sad.
That's pretty cool. You see, now I'm back into it, because he was just kind of like telling me some story for a while that was kind of boring, and then we needed some action, and so then we got our action scene real quick of him just. So, just a word of the wise, Zack, for your future content creation. So just keep in mind.
A sad truth. The poor unwitting imposter was R.D. or Richard Dilworthy Whitaker of Madison, Wisconsin, the soldier of little Eugene LeMulligan, and utterly unknown to our Lucretia B. Smith. But such is life, and the tail of the serpent hangs over us all. Let's close the curtain on this melancholy tale, for melancholy it must remain, for a season at least, for the real Reginald de Whitaker has not turned up yet. Thank you very much.
Nope, no clapping, folks. We know that's the problem, is when we clap for him. Alrighty, so overall, the second one was much better. Whoever his father is got him a better suit, so he's off the hook. But yeah, that's gonna wrap this up, folks. This is just another episode of the Matthew Thompson YouTube channel, bringing you the fresh content that you're looking for, that's wholesome for you and your family, that you can really trust to watch on a Saturday night. So please like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend, tell your grandma, your grandpa, and anyone else that you can about this channel. Please donate to my political campaign. Vote for me this fall. And with that, I will see you all next time.